In this latest installment of Deep Evolution News, ancient third eyes, basis for vertebrate eyesight, and new fossil uncovers the marine origins of the Myriapods. Let's dive into it right away. It turns out that the evolution of our eyes is much more convoluted than originally thought. A groundbreaking analysis at the cellular level uncovers that our ancient vertebrate ancestors actually lost their eyesight only to recover it again from another source. The source in question is a mysterious organ known as, or popularly referred to as, the third eye. We've already known for quite some time that all vertebrates originally had a parietal eye on top of their head, nowadays mostly repurposed and hidden away deep inside the brain. Calling it an eye is perhaps overstating it because it never had any image-forming capabilities. It is in fact more of a light-level sensor helping to regulate our circadian rhythms based on ambient light in the environment. The pineal gland complex is what remains of it, while still largely retaining its original role. In some creatures this third eye is still visible on the surface, like for instance in the tuatara, the only remaining survivor of the ancient reptilian order of Rhynchocephalia. But it can also be spotted in many other reptiles and also amphibians. This setup goes all the way back to our last common ancestor with all other bilaterians, including arthropods and mollusks, who each evolved their own highly intricate sets of eyes. This common ancestor has two main locations for sensing light, a pair of lateral eyes and a median eye, the latter of which we can connect with the so-called third eye. Bilaterian eyes are built from two distinct types of photoreceptive cell types, ciliary and rhabdomeric. Ciliary receptors were primarily used for measuring general light levels to regulate circadian rhythms. Rhabdomeric receptors were often paired with pigment cups to sense the direction of light in order to adjust an animal's orientation and posture in the water column, as light usually comes from above where the sun is. These two main cell types are associated with their own optic proteins, C-opsin and R-opsin respectively, of which there are some variations that either emerged or were lost over time. Some of these primitive eyes were then marshaled for locomotion control, such as avoiding obstacles and shadows, eventually developing more and more acute object vision. This especially goes for the lateral eyes, while the other types in the median position instead specialized in gauging light levels for orientation and internal regulation. What's new about the latest discovery is that for vertebrates the third eye is primal and our lateral eyes derived secondarily from it. This is because our chordate ancestors went through a sessile phase where locomotion control was not really necessary anymore, so the ancestral lateral eyes were lost. When the ancestors of vertebrates took up a free-swimming lifestyle again, the median eye complex stretched out sideways and repurposed its cells to form a new set of lateral eyes. The authors of the article found evidence of this in the lamprey, whose median eye provides a snapshot of this ancestral state by having a heterogeneous mix of different cell types. In order to develop our modern lateral eyes, something more was needed to wire it all together. As it so happens, the C and R opsins and their associated cell types have opposite polarity. So for this reorganization to work, vertebrates repurposed existing cell types to integrate these signals. In the lateral eyes, the rods and cones in the retina use transducin, a eukaryotic signaling protein, to transmit light-activated signals. Meanwhile, the median eye retained its ancestral role, using perietopsin to regulate circadian rhythms and other non-visual functions. Amazingly, another key innovation came from an external source. Through horizontal gene transfer from a bacterium, the chordate ancestor acquired a protein complex called IRBP, which enabled the recycling of visual pigments in the retina. This was critical for the evolution of our highly sensitive ciliary photoreceptors. This is why the eyes of vertebrates are actually quite abnormal in the animal kingdom. It has flipped the script by using ciliary cells as the main photoreceptor. This also means that the lateral eyes of protostomes are not directly related to those of vertebrates. If anything, this shows how the unpredictability and short-sightedness of evolution, pun not intended, in the long run can actually yield ever more intricate adaptations. A new fossil discovery from the Silurian of Wisconsin nails down the origin of the Myriapods. The Myriapods are a well-established group of arthropods that include centipedes and millipedes, but their precise origins are still a bit of a mystery. What stands out about this group is that they are fully terrestrial and that their limbs are uniramous, which means consisting of only a single branch. The ancestral state for arthropods is a biramous limb split into a walking and a gill branch. It was long thought that uniramous limbs in myriapods were an adaptation for life on land, coinciding with a breathing apparatus consisting of tracheal tubes, like in insects. Myriapods were also long thought to be the sister groups to insects, representing an ancestral state. However, as it turns out, insects are actually nested within crustaceans instead. The closest known fossil relatives to the myriapods were the Euthycarcinoids, an interesting group typically found in brackish or intertidal sediments, and thus possibly amphibious. Certain trackways going back as early as the Cambrian period hint that this group may have been the earliest arthropods to walk on land. The new species described here, Waukartus muscularis, is fully marine but had uniramous limbs, yet it was more primitive than Euthycarcinoids. Unlike Euthycarcinoids, it lacks certain features typically found in myriapods. One such feature is the intercalary segment, a specialized segment that lacks appendages and provides flexibility for the head. The other feature is a flexible skin between the backplates and the legs, likewise allowing for more flexibility when moving around. In Waukartus, the intercalary segment is missing and the legs are still firmly attached to the dorsal exoskeleton. All in all, this means that the limbs became uniramous before the ancestors of myriapods ventured onto land. Alright, that's it for this time around. Please keep an eye on my channel for the next video, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss anything. A special thank you for all my Patreons for the continued support. For now, stay sharp and stay evolved.